Hey Jennifer, just make sure you stick around for the entire video because I'm going to give you a lot of information on this. I just looked up your company, and my understanding is that they reprocess surgical equipment to get it, that make it usable again, right? So good. So couple things. So fundamentally, you have to do the same thing. As a new lead, you've got to understand activities and what the reasonable expectation is, right? What I mean is that if you have stations within your line, say for example, if you're a new lead and you have several stations that you're doing, right? You've got to understand what jobs are doing within those stations, right? Are they doing one single activity, right? Or they're doing multiple things, multiple activities to complete the process of that actual equipment, right? So you've got to understand that. And plus, you've got to understand the reasonable expectation of that. For example, if you have an activity that they do and it takes them 2 minutes to do, right, for this one step, right, then they complete it, then they go on to the next one, or they do another one and another one, right? Like typical manufacturing, right? It's important that you understand that so that you can do the math. Because if it's 2 minutes, right, then you can do 30 every hour, then 30 times the number of hours that you're doing for the entire day, the entire week, right? But you have to include, fatigue and things like that as a variable in that. But if you're being overloaded with more work than you're actually capable of doing based on the reasonable expectation, you've got to talk to your boss about what the math is, right? When they give you these goals and they say, hey, these are the goals, whatever that is, you got to ask them, like, how did you do this math? Because remember, say, for example, and the other thing you have to do is pull the KPIs, like pull the data, understand what it means, really drill down to see what exactly those things look like: productivity, efficiency, cost per unit, especially productivity in your case, because they want output, right? Your company wants output, input, right, of the surgical equipment, and output of good quality equipment. And also include first pass yield, which is a quality metric, because that's based on your inspections, right? That you pass all your inspections at the first time. Understand that, because if you have a high or a low first pass yield, there's a quality issue and you want to make sure you address it, right? Now, the other thing also is that you have to assess your team's skill set. And you do that through what's called a skills training matrix. And this is what we've created, what I've created. If you're interested, let me know. But you have to assess this training. You've got to do that. As a new lead, you've got to know who's doing what, who knows how to do what. And that way you can see the gaps in training, but also begin addressing those gaps so that you can have a flexible workforce around that. So let me know in the comments. And the last thing is that you've got to track your lost time. Like, what are the issues that's delaying the work for meeting the reasonable expectations, right? For example, it may be the lack of equipment, lack of supplies, gold plating. If you don't know that, look it up. But people may be gold plating and taking too long to fix this thing because their belief is that it should be perfect, but all it is that they have to just meet quality standard. So you have to understand that. You've got to understand lost time and what's delaying those things, and it's really important. But if you follow those steps and have conversations with your boss about what the math is for you, you've got to do the math. You've got to do all those things to really understand how your team's performing based on the goals. Then when they tell you what these new goals are and they don't match up or line up to what the math you're doing, right? Because it's all based on your capability, then that's the conversation to say, hey, the goals that you guys are creating, the KPIs, are way off base. How did you do the math? You're going to realize that they're not doing the math really correctly based on your current capability. And you might be doing it based on like either capacity or the perfect world, right? That you have to work 8 hours straight without any fatigueness in there, or work straight 40 hours and doing all that. I get it, right? But that's the conversation you want to have. I am proposing a masterclass that teaches all this. Please let me know in the comments, and if anyone's interested, so you can learn step by step how to do this so that you can build your craft as a leader or as a manager.